Something else came out this week. Romeo Dobbs asked about Jordan Love, what his capabilities are. And listen, these guys have to do what they're going to do as far as if inevitably the media is going to ask you the question, hey, do you think Jordan is as talented as Aaron? Or do you think Jordan is as fill in the blank as Aaron? Compare Jordan to Aaron. Compare this person who's never played a full season of football to arguably a top 3, 4 of all time quarterback in terms of talent and football intelligence. Please compare those two people. If I'm Romeo Dobbs, I go, you know what? I'm not going to compare these two people. They're two different humans. They're in two different situations. We're really excited to play with Jordan. From what I can tell, Jordan's got great enthusiasm for football. He has his incredible arm strength. He's very mobile, highly intelligent. I love the way that he works. I see him in there. We go through, he had us out in California, wherever, with West Coast, throwing routes on air, building that camaraderie. Everything's going great. I love watching film with him. I love the way he sees the game. I'm learning so much from him. I can't wait to spend more time with him and learn more. But I'm not going to compare him to Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that's fair for either party. That's one way to do it. That's how 46-year-old retired person would do it. Romeo said, basically, I don't see a big difference. Jordan can do everything that Aaron can do. I'm curious as to whether or not at any point Matt, OC, wide receivers coach, Goody, president, just said, hey, here's what we're not going to do this year. We just traded away arguably the best player in the history of the Green Bay Packers, arguably. We are not going to put more out there in terms of media, even though we think Jordan can handle it. We're not going to put more out there by comparing Jordan's play style, arm strength, football intelligence, anything with Aaron Rodgers. We are just going to be as complimentary as we can with Aaron, departed, how great he was for our organization, but also as excited as we can possibly be about the prospect of playing with this young, unproven quarterback who we think has a huge upside. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to say they sleep on the same side of bed. They both put their pants on one leg at a time. They like pancakes for breakfast. Like, we're not going to say any of that, because somebody's going to go out there, grab it, and shoot. I just typed in Packers news. That was like number 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7 top articles to look at. Romeo Dobbs says, compares Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. Unnecessary, not a big deal. Learning lesson. I'm sure he'll do it differently next time. On the other side of that, elder statesman now, probably future Hall of Famer. I think definitely future Hall of Famer. David Bakhtiari, one of arguably Aaron's closest friend on the team, not named Randall Cobb. He's been pretty blunt about showing a level of respect for Aaron leaving the building and what that actually means. I think he doubled down on this, because I think he said this a couple weeks ago, a little bit earlier, and he said, listen, when you get rid of a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, you're in rebuilding mode. You can call it whatever you want, but it's disrespectful, and I think he used the term disrespectful, to say that they're not in rebuilding mode after trading 12. And of course, that's going to make headlines. Dave's got one of those personalities. He's got a big voice in that locker room. He's got a big voice with the media. He's got a good following on social media. He's a great personality. He's a great player. Respect the hell out of everything that guy brings to the table. And so when he talks, people are going to listen. And, oh, by the way, he's got to protect the blind side of the new guy, which he knows is his job, but he's got to protect a Hall of Fame player for his entire career. And he's great friends with him. Goody, of course, has to unfortunately go through and broach this subject. And this is part of what it is to be a Green Bay Packer right now when you go through this transition. Of course, he disagrees. The point of every year is to go win the Super Bowl. That's always going to be our mission. Nothing's going to change. And I wonder, and this is just a thought experiment. But we've talked about this numerous times on the show. This season, more than any season in the last 10 years, is a referendum on Goody's ability to develop higher talent and Matt's ability to develop talent, Matt and his staff. They're who are leading the charge, the head of the table right now. We have a ton of first-round picks on defense. They've underperformed. We've neglected some positions on offense. Looks like we're trying to fill those in a little bit now. I love we've always been great developers of talent on the offensive line, whether through the draft or combination of draft and lower round draft picks and developing them. We've always done a great job of that. Bechtel did a great job of that. Campy did an outstanding job of that. Stanovich did a great job of that. We'll see how Buckus does. Tight end position, we just got two guys that can play. I would argue the Musgrave's a first-round draft pick caliber player. Watson was a first-round draft pick caliber player last year. Whether he goes in the first round, how you value it, blah, 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 blah. Like from a talent standpoint, that's what you're looking at. So we have guys that are legitimate elite athletes at positions that matter in this league. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, both Pro Bowl level players when they're playing at their best. So they have talent. Now, can we bring that all together? Can we develop that talent? And I'm wondering, is there any scenario where a guy like Goody goes, yeah, let's call this what it is. We're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. We are rebuilding a little bit because we did just fall away from the greatest quarterback that the Green Bay Packers have had in the last forever, right? Bart Starr, Brett, well, maybe, but Aaron's pretty damn good, and we don't have him anymore. And so to think that we're going to go haul off and win a Super Bowl this year, next year, is probably far-fetched. Now, to stick by your guns and think that you've done a great job and you put pieces in place that require the respect of the rest of the National Football League because you're a real Super Bowl contender, I think that's great. I also know that the smartest people in the room aren't even in the organization. They're in Vegas placing the betting lines on these teams. The betting odds on this team, over under, 7.5 wins. You go to Bet Online, FanDuel, any total. 7.5 wins ain't getting you in the playoffs. 8 wins, not getting you in the playoffs. 9 wins, yeah. In the NFC, I don't think that's getting you in the playoffs. So if you're over under 7.5, you have a new quarterback. Your defense has underperformed. You don't feel 100% confident in how you're going to run your offense. At least the outward perception is that because of some new pieces in place, 2 new tight ends, running back being your strongest skill position right now, Christian Washington getting a full offseason of work healthy, bringing in Jalen Reed, the wide receiver position, Dobbs coming up for his second year. You don't really know what this is going to look like. He's going to look more like Sean McVay. He's going to look like Matt LaFleur. He's going to look like Kyle Shanahan. What is this offense going to look like? Hopefully I think everybody's consensus is let's hope it looks more like Shanahan's because of the way that they can make any quarterback look really good. But do you give yourself a little bit of leeway and go, look, man, let's call it what it is. Like, we got what we wanted, but Aaron is gone. And when Aaron is gone, Aaron didn't walk in day one when Brett left and they won the Super Bowl. And he was hyped by players that I know during practice. He performed at a level that was so high that when everyone said, when this dude gets his chance, watch out. That's not what's been said here. Not that Jordan's not going to perform, not that Jordan's not going to be the next Hall of Fame quarterback, but that's not how this has been presented. When Brett was on his way out and he was bitching about all the things that were going on, and Aaron was repping at practice and he was playing against the first team defense, people would call me and say, dude, this next guy is real. You should see his arm. You should see the way he carves up our defense. It was announced. Hasn't been that way. Maybe it's better if we set expectations a little bit differently, because we could be really, really good and we could jump way, way over that hurdle. But the pressure is on in a way that has never been from the fans, most importantly, the president who runs the Green Bay Packers and the board. This is a year where you're going to have to show, man, I have done my job in drafting players. I have done my job in hiring Matt or supporting Matt in getting the players that he wants to develop. Matt, these are huge years for these guys to prove they can step out of that monster shadow that is Aaron Rodgers and be NFC champions, NFC North champions, whatever that division, conference champions, Super Bowl champions on their own.